Very good morning, good evening, good afternoon from ZA6YI, running the DATV Worldwide Net today. Not many people on. I know some guys are watching the Monaco Grand Prix, so that's understandable. But we do wish to wish everyone on frequency, and thank you for joining us. We also want to thank the Qatar Satellite Company for allowing us the opportunity to have our amateur-built or amateur satellite on their transponder. The satellite was designed by the German AMSAT DL group, and it was then eventually constructed by the Mitsubishi company, electronic company. And then, of course, a lot of input from British Amateur Television Club and from the AMSAT UK team. So it's really been a fantastic satellite. A lot of French guys have written fantastic software. Some Italian guys are writing some good software. And will you believe it, even some South African guys have written some fantastic software. Uan, ZS1 SEI, and of course Tom, ZR6 Tango Golf, has written some really robust and good software. So it's been a collaboration of many people to be able to come to you via the satellite. I also wish to thank the YouTube normal listeners. I just wanted to see if I see anyone on frequency just yet. It's a bit early. I just want to say hello to Vidi, ZS1 Echo Lima down in the Cape. He's quite keen to come onto narrowband. I did send Vidi a little link so that he can listen to the narrowband signals. I surely hope he's done that. And hello, Vidi, if you can see us on your YouTube channel there. Right, with that, let me pull up the list for today. Now that's interesting. Let me get the list. There we go. We have the following. We've got Martin in the UK, G8KOE to follow me, and then it'll be to Phil, Mike Zero Papa India Tango. I just want to tell you, Phil's done fantastic work in the historical side of, I wouldn't say amateur radio, but electronics for sure. He's at Bletchley Park quite often and working on what broke the enigma. He's with a conglomeration of people built up the new iMac. I think that's the one that is, Phil. But we'd like to see something about that again sometime. Many people have seen snippets and have asked me, hey, how's that program or that project going? So Phil can tell us a little bit about that. Hello, Michael, Echo Alpha 7KIR. Michael is a professional in audio, especially in audio, and he's busy with my new, what's it, LU meter again. It sounds fantastic there, Mike. We're looking forward to seeing that. Michael also had been involved in professional television behind the scenes as an engineer, etc. And then Paul, Papa Echo 1 Alpha Victor Papa, has given a series of fantastic lectures of note, and recently on DATV and the way it works. How does it work? Fascinating collation of lectures that Paul has given us. And we look forward to the next one. You know, Paul, it's hello to Peter on Peter Rudolph. Nice to see you from Germany. I must say, Paul, that attracted a lot of attention on YouTube. Viewer ratings went up. And to our dear friend Frank, ZS6 Golf Echo in Pretoria. Now, you know, Frank worked for Raycol. He was on the research team. He worked with Horace Dainty and, of course, with our dear friend and mutual friend, Dave Larson, the chap who basically invented the frequency hopping military radio, the Raycol TR-15 frequency hopper. And I actually received that, the very first one that was produced commercially. Dave, of course, received. And when he passed on, his family entrusted it to me to on loan, give it to the Institute of Electrical Engineers Museum. And it's still there, pride of place, I must tell you. Okay, with that, Martin, to you, dear sir. Nice to speak to you a few seconds ago. G8KOE to take it from ZS6YI near Three Rivers, near Johannesburg, in Three Rivers, near Johannesburg. Three Rivers.
Right, let's make sure we got some audio, which hopefully we should have. It was there earlier, and looks like we have. Right, it's a message for Phil. Have a pen and paper ready, because you're bound to want to write things down and query things for me. I've been playing with my 2 meters, shall we say. I've got one of those and one of the V5s, one of those, and trying to sort of come some idea of what power that I'm running or not running, etc. I have a great difficulty with numbers, so I do struggle and get very, very confused very early. Anyway, let's go to the screen. That's roughly the sort of setup that I've been playing with. My spare PA has a directional coupler. That one that's in there is 30 dB attenuation. And a dummy load on the end, which is another directional coupler, which I think is 17.5 dB attenuation. I forget what the actual is. It 50 to 1, is it? I can't remember now, but I will show later. Anyway, so that's sort of the setup. So let's get rid of that, and we'll go to my first few slides, and we'll start with that one. Not having a spectrum analyzer, we've used the SatSagen software to produce a signal on 2408, and not that it's terribly referenced, but it's the actual software I've set to 0 dB. I haven't calibrated it. I think there was a calibration process, but I will admit to have not read the totally all the instructions, etc. But anyway, we'll move on. Now I've fed that in through a preamp into my PA, and that's the display for the V5, and as you can see, it's plus 60 in, which is a 30 dB attenuator on front of the V5 power monitor, and that gives me plus 11.5 dBm, it says. Okay, right, so we move on to the next one, and the same system with an offset of plus 60 dB, and that gives me a level of 47.2 dBm. Right, now what did we do then? Now we then got rid of the 30 dBs of attenuation in front of the various power monitors, and just used the directional coupler, which is 30 dB attenuation. Same setup, that gave me 26.4 dBm. And then if we went over to my other little device, that gave me 33.3 dBm. Guys, this is exciting, isn't it? So that was the sort of setup, and you can see the little finned attenuator in front of the power monitor, which I took it out in and out. So that's 30 dBs on that, 30 dB for the power splitter. So if we moved on a bit further, that's just showing the two obviously laptops that I've got going. Now the other device I've got, which I reckon was 17.5 dB attenuation, so I've got that and the 30 dB attenuator in, feeding the V5, and we get a reading of plus 18.1. As you can see, I put it plus 47.5. I'm assuming that's correct. We'll move on, and doing the same thing but with my other little device that reads 42 dBm. It's going back to that's 47. It's gone back to the original, just using a 60 dB attenuation and just showing what that was reading. It's sort of me going backtracking. That's a better display there. So the power out from the PA with the 60 dB into my little device seems to read 47.2 dBm, which if we go to even that next, that's me just playing. I'll put some FM on it. Now I have this really crude power meter that I stuck in line, which is another directional coupler and just a diode to pick things off, etc. And I'd calibrated it using my SG Labs PA, which is a 20 watt PA, and it tells you what current it'll be drawing and etc. to give you what output. So I'd calibrated that 20 on the display was 20 watts from that SG Labs PA, and that's what I got feeding the that's just another picture of that. So that's what I reckoned I was getting, roughly, possibly, maybe. So we then went to stage 2. That's the back of my dummy load, which is going a bit rusty at the end, but it's a 50:1 ratio of the directional coupler there. Anyway, that's just for reference sort of again. So here we go again. We've got the Pluto feeding in, and the through the 30 dB attenuator, and that's what I get on the software. Looking at it with a 30 dB in, and then we move on and we put this 1 watt preamp module in, and the same sort of setup, and we move on, and that gives me 14.1 dBm. Now the same sort of setup using the other meter gives me 3.2 dBm going through the 30 dB attenuator fed from the Pluto, which is using the SATSAGEN software. And now going through the now that display, I hope I took another picture of that. Yes, so the level that gave was 20.2 dBm. So we can get rid of all those, I think, because probably everyone's gone to sleep now, because I certainly have. And just to highlight it, I've since ordered also a couple of those that Paul recommended because they were a good price to have a play with. It was supposed to be 2 watt ones, so I'll be playing with those. But it was just having played with all those different settings and the 2 different meters. Should I be doing something else to measure things or do things or whatever? Anyway, I'm using Tom's Open Tuner software with the Pico Tune, and that's working exceedingly well. And obviously on transmit I'm using DATV Red, so it's this South African connection. Well, most of my station is being controlled by software that's there. Anyway, are people still awake? Have they given up and gone away? Anyway, Phil, I'll pass it over to you for all your words of wisdom, and I'll put a test card first from G8KOE.
Oh, dear, Martin. I fell asleep. I mustn't say that. Turn the audio down. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I mean, where do you start? I really, as I said the other day, really what you need to do all of this is a reference. Which you don't have. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have an HP analyzer which I can use as a reference, and that will be my starting point. Is basically using that to give you references of levels, etc., going in and coming out of devices. Your homemade little power meter, I think it's probably quite accurate. When you talked about the amount of current that your PA is the same as mine, and at about 8 amps, I think I'm pushing up about 16 watts, I think. And I think your little power meter gives you a very similar reading. But it's not calibrated, and that's always the problem. The power amp, that mini 2-watt power amplifier that you showed, I did look at the spec of the output device, and the absolute maximum for that device was 1 watt. And for DATV, you ain't going to get anywhere near that. I haven't got one. I've got one that looks very similar, but it uses a different output effect. And that one is rated higher than the one that you showed. I run mine at about, what do I run mine at? I think I run mine at about 10 dBm, which is, I think, is 100 milliwatts, if my memory serves me correct. And that's where I drive mine. And I know that if I go anywhere near the maximum, which I think for mine is about 1 watt, if I go anywhere near that, the shoulders just hit the roof. But that's that. What have I been doing? I haven't been doing very much. I did put a fan. I've got a wooden garden cabinet which houses my PA, and there it is, my new vent that's on the back, and as you can see, there is air flowing through it because the 3 little louvers there are basically controlled by airflow. So as the air goes through it, the louvers open, and that's what I have now. The sun is on my little cabinet. It's got full sun, and it's quite warm out there, I should imagine, in that little box. Put me back, don't want to sit and look at the wooden box. And at the moment, my PA is sitting at near enough 40 degrees. Which is a big improvement because during last week, I think it was, or a couple of weeks ago, my PA got up to I think about 55 degrees when I rushed outside. Of course I turned it off before I did it. I ran outside and opened up the doors to cool it down a bit. And it was that point I thought I'd better put a fan in it. So that is a big improvement. And just to slightly correct Gary, project that I worked on, I am still involved with, is basically it's Colossus, which is at Bletchley Park. It's not, it was never designed or cannot be used on the bomb. It's actually used to break a much more complicated German cipher machine called the Lorenz SZ42, and that has 12 wheels, 12 rotors on it, unlike Enigma, which has 3 or 4 depending on what type it is, and the number of positions of each wheel on the Enigma is 26, whereas on the Lorenz they're all different sizes. All the 12 wheels are different sizes, and the biggest one is 61 positions, so it is much more complicated. And yes, I do have a video. I do show it from time to time. I'm quite conscious that a lot of people on the net have seen it before, so if there is any interest, I could run it after the net. It runs for about, I'm not sure, about 15 minutes. There's no commentary on it. I suppose I could do a bit of commentary describing what you're looking at. But if there is interest, I can run it after the net. I think that's really about it from me. Okay, right. So we're going to hand it over to Michael, and I think Michael's going to talk about his LU meter, which I am very interested in. I won't be using an LU meter because I like ppms, and that's what I was brought up with, and that's what I will be using. That's what I use, and but I am very interested in the project, Michael. So I'm going to put up a test card, and then I shall kill my carrier, and then it will be hopefully be Michael.
Yes, yeah, I too, Phil, was brought up on ppms, having worked in broadcast since 1962. Yeah, 1962. And yeah, I love them. But, you know, things move on. And although there's quite a few ppms you can buy on eBay, quite a few appeared just recently, actually. Some of them don't have the circuit card that goes with them, and if it did, and it was faulty, you wouldn't be able to get the spares because the components, or at least some of them, would be obsolete. I've got 2 ppms that I was given actually many years ago, and one of those is faulty and I can't repair it. So all that led me on to building the one on the OLED device, which seems to be quite good. But I'll come back to that in a minute. I just want to mention Bletchley Park first of all, because I visited Bletchley Park with Peeler last year when we came over for CAP 23, and it was fantastic. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to see it all, so another visit is warranted. I'm not sure if I'm coming over this year, but you could spend 2 days there, I think, looking at, but we only saw half of it. Anyhow, what I did see was impressive. Right, next point. I have a question, if anybody actually knows for sure, and that is about the beacon. Does anybody know for sure what the audio codec being encoded, never mind what your receiver says, is it MPA or MP3 or is it something else? Because I have discovered that some receivers tell you you're receiving MPA, and some receivers tell you you're using MP3. So which is it? I would like very much to know for sure. Somebody must know. Okay, next thing, just a little comment before I get into the meat. I too, Martin, have a problem remembering numbers. I describe myself as being numerically dyslexic. I have a very good visual memory, but not when it comes to visuals of telephone numbers or dates and things like that. I'm absolutely hopeless. So designing circuit cards and remembering pin numbers can be a bit of an issue for me, because I can't remember more than 3 numbers, you know, and the telephone number's 6 or 7 or whatever it is. See, I can't remember that. On the RF side, I use, coming out of the Pluto, I have directly on the back of the Pluto, I've got an audio devices preamp. You know, the one that you can just buy, a little thing like that. And that goes into the feed, which is about 11 meters long, I think. And then up on the roof, I've got another of these analog devices preamps to make up for the loss in the cable. And that goes into my modem, is that how you say it? Power amplifier. It's a 100 watt power amplifier, which is very efficient. It only takes, well, I'm taking now 5.8 amps DC at 28 volt. I'm staggered when I hear people like Colin, for example, who was saying he was drawing 17 amps. I mean, what is going on there? But anyhow, it seems to work for me. I use an RF switch. Again, I can't remember what make it is, but I've got an RF switch, solid state switch, on the back of the preamp in the shack, and that's my press to talk. Which brings me to why I wanted to build this project, the LU meter project. It all started because, I'll just show you on that camera, on this camera. Up there are 2 speakers. I mean, one's actually hidden behind the monitor. Terrible, isn't it? But the point is, the volume control is over there. You can just about see it on the speaker. And to reach it is a bit of an arm stretch like that. And I've got to be very careful not to nudge the cables, because one of them's a bit faulty, and if you touch it, the monitor goes off. So what I need is a remote volume control and a remote mute switch, ideally. And that's how it started, and it evolved. But having got bored with the PPMs, I thought, let's be a little bit modern. So let's have an LU meter, but not one. Oh, no, 2. One for transmit and one for receive. Now, I've been building this thing for quite some time, and finally, I've got the PCB card complete. By the way, apologies to those that might have seen me showing this on the Thursday net, but you know, that's how it is, isn't it? So I got that built, and the trouble was there was a little bit of a problem. The left and rights were doing strange things, and I looked on the back of the that's the back of the analog switch, and I'd screwed up. I'd screwed up with the. Sorry, I'm not showing you the picture, am I? That's it. That's the back of the analog switch, and I'd screwed up with the schematic diagram, and got the connections wrong. So I attacked it with a knife, and my goodness me, cutting through the green stuff is very difficult. And that's the botch. That's the botch. So we'll call this revision 1. However, it now works. So I'm happy about that. And here it is in the box. fits in neatly. This is a view from the back of the box. You've got the 2 meters on the front and the switches on the front, and all the I/O connectors are on the back panel, which you can't see from here. And you know, it all connects up with 3 ribbon cables and another 2-way cable for the main switch. Yes, it's got real mains on the circuit card. Yes, terrible, isn't it? However, I haven't killed myself yet. So, what does it look like? Does it work now? Yes, it does. I'll go to the other camera again. And here it is. So, on the left, you can see me speaking. And on the right, you can see me speaking, but on the receiver. Yeah? And that's what it looks like inside, this time from the front. So it's quite a small box, as you can see. It just sits on top of my receiver. And these are the buttons. So we can switch between, if it weren't muted, we can switch between listening to the transmitter or listening to the receive signal. I'm not going to touch these because we'll get a big howl around if I do. But when I select remote, that little light for the mute goes on and off automatically, triggered by the transmitter over there somewhere. And of course, when you drop carrier, it goes off and you're automatically listening to the receiver again, which is absolutely marvellous. I don't have to touch things except adjust the volume. And this is what it's all about, apart from the mute and the other thing. So the last speaker, who was the last speaker? Phil. He mentioned you need a reference for RF he was referring. But you also need a reference for audio. And as Phil, being an audio expert, like myself, he knows about these things. But what a lot of people don't know, I think, is they worry very much about the picture quality, the RF signal and all that side of it, and pay very little attention to the audio. But pictures without sound are usually meaningless. Try watching the television with the sound off and you don't have a clue what's going on. So sound is, at least in my view, more than 50% more important than the pictures. Because you can take away the pictures and you can still understand what's going on, okay? So the quality of the sound's important. I think people do appreciate that. But the level is important as well. Especially when you're cutting from one contributor to another on a net. And one is this loud and the other's this loud. And you're forever having to adjust the volume. You shouldn't have to do that. And that's what LU meters are all about. To provide a consistent level. And although peak program meters, PPMs, do go some way towards that, it does require a trained operator to use it. Because the meter doesn't tell you the full story. You have to use your ears as well and experience. Whereas an LU meter is a way of measuring the sound in a subjective way, whereas the PPM's an objective way, if you like. And it will give you a loudness value according to the specification that was worked on over many, many years by members of the EBU audio group. I can't remember what it's called now. And it's in use now, today. Maybe not in every country, but most countries throughout the world are using it. And the idea is to prevent viewers needing to adjust the volume between program material and commercials. So they've really clamped down on commercials, because and even now the commercial producers are trying to find ways of cheating. So you will get some commercials that are too loud, but you can always cheat it, because nothing's perfect, and the LU meter isn't perfect either. And I'm sure in a few years' time there'll be a Generation 2 version of it. But this is what we have now, and it's normally done in the digital domain, which is probably a lot easier than the way I've done it. But I'm not a digital engineer, so I did it the old-fashioned way with capacitors and resistors. That's where we are. Anyhow, that's it. I'm calling this revision 1. As I say, it's working. There's more work to do. I'm not too happy with the ballistics of the meter at the moment. That needs fine-tuning, and I need to align that to what a real LU meter would display, ballistic-wise. On steady tones and things like that, it's within spec right now. But the actual ballistics just need a little bit of tweaking. But I don't have a real LU meter, because they're pretty expensive, and I'm not going to go out and buy one. So I've got one on the Mac by Auburn, which is a free thing, and that kind of works. But the problem is audio routing, and to do it's complicated. They used to be free, now they're not, and they're pretty expensive as well. Although I've downloaded one demo of an audio router, one of the packages that I want to route from, or to actually, which the Auburn meter actually, it won't route to it. So I can route from anything, but I can't route to the LU meter, so that I can see exactly the same sound on both, So I've got to overcome that as well. But it's going well. I'm very pleased. So we've gone from circuit design to construction to something that actually works, and I can now play with this and improve it. And if anybody's interested at some point in the future, I'll make a revision 2 of the circuit card, so we get rid of the little wires on the back, and people will be free to waste their money building this like I've done. No, it does work. So that's what it's all about. Okay, enough. Where are we going next? We're going to Paul, PE1 AVP from EA7 KIR in Malaga.
I also want to check my audio as usual. Oh dear. I've got no audio, I think. That's wrong. Small check again. Is there any audio? I don't hear myself. No, I don't think it's correct. No, it's not correct. So I'll try it another time. That's interesting. You say that you hear me. and I don't hear myself. Oh, yeah. Now I can hear myself too. That makes it a lot better. I was already afraid after everything that Michael just explained that something would be wrong with my audio and the audio level. Well, apologies, but I wasn't able to receive myself. Yeah, that can happen, of course. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are at the moment from the Netherlands. We had a lot of rain this afternoon. I don't like that in summertime at a temperature of 19 degrees. But now it seems to be a bit better, but it will only be short, looking at the forecast. Okay, thanks to Gary for leading the net, as usual. This week not that much happened here. There happened a lot, of course, but not hobby-wise. I told you 2 weeks ago my personal computer crashed. I tried to rebuild it, but that was not successful, so I thought I'd buy a new one. Well, that was delivered last Wednesday, but I simply did not have the time to completely install it. So I'm working partly with it, but it is not working fine. Just as an example, the resolution of one of the displays is not correct. Well, it doesn't matter, that will be solved. The reason for it is quite simple. I worked as an electrician last week, working days from 9 to 5 or even later. It's absolutely not my profession, but an electric installation is needed in a corporate building. Labor sometimes in the Netherlands is a bit difficult, so I do it all by myself. And also next week a lot has to be done there, so hobby-wise there will be no time available. I observed another problem with the other old PC and OBS, and that is the latency. For some reason, the latency in that machine became very, very high, and I've got no clue what it is. But at this moment, while watching, I see that Microsoft invited me to do an update again. So that that might be the reason. Well, not that much to tell. I try to respond to what is being told. First of all, Martin, thanks for sharing all the power measurement results with different power measurement devices, and what you're showing, that is indeed the difficulty with power measurements. Getting objective results, that is not simple at all, and this is especially applicable for complex signals. And I do not know what kind of signals that you offered, whether you did input a real sine reference signal to your power meter devices, or that it was a DATV signal. I think it was the last, because I also saw that you used a Pluto to deliver a reference signal into your power measurement device. Yeah, actually, as what I said, it is damn difficult. In the past, I owned an HP power measurement head. I blew it, and yeah, that really was a pity, because that was the single device that was reliable. It was a device, a power measurement head, working with a thermocoupler, and that always did deliver the right results. But I lost it, and the amount of money which you have to spend to get such a device again, that is far too much. But this thermocoupler device really did translate the power out of a frequency generator, for example, into dissipated heat, and that is being measured then. and that is absolutely reliable. There are also power heads which are based upon diode detectors, and they are more measuring the peak level within the signal. And that's leading to completely different results. And all the, let's say, cheap Chinese devices, which are good actually, but they are usually using these measurement devices from analog devices, also leading to good results, but they are not reliable. And if you raise the question, how important is it to know the exact power level? I personally think it is not that important at all. But thanks for sharing. Then Phil, you showed beautiful louvres. And actually, by showing that, you did answer a question from Michael about power amplifiers that are dissipating a lot of heat. If your power amplifier is dissipating a lot of heat, you have to put it somewhere, and that is what Phil did. It actually looks from the outside like a wash dryer. Yeah. Okay. Also interesting, Michael, what you have shown about the LU meters. That is a technology in itself. I'm watching at the list who's else on the list at the moment. Should not do that while transmitting. But that's also very important, and you made clear that there is a huge difference between the objective measurement of audio and also the subjective measurement of audio. Well, I told in the past that I have a measurement station for aviation noise. I'm delivering signals once per minute to a central site, and in that measurement device, first of all, there's a logarithmic detector. That's important. What is how good is the logarithmic detector, and then how to give a figure to the let's say subjective weight of the noise. Okay, as an amateur, I built something for that in the past, and it's running now for 3 years or so, and still delivering those measurement results. I already promised I will share some information about it on what I have built in the past, but simply did not have the time to prepare for that. Well, that's it from the Netherlands at the moment, from the city of Limmen. I could show you the beach, but since it has rained, there's nothing to see at the beach. Okay, I'm sending the camera and the microphone to South Africa, to Frank, and I will be watching the full net. Okay, I will show my test card.
Okay, as usual. Testing the sound. Good day everybody. Relatively small net today, but doesn't matter, interesting. Paul, I agree with you. The thermocouple power meter is reliable, but the cost is crazy. I'm sure you all know that old chestnut. If you have a watt meter, you know what power you are transmitting. If you have 2 watt meters, you haven't got a clue. That's the problem, especially now also for these frequencies and these complex signals. I also can only guess what I'm transmitting. I have directional couplers and all sorts of things, but I have no idea. And not much good if the difference can be 6 dB. That is so, what good is a power meter that gives you that error? Anyway, Michael, yeah, fancy box, fancy looking box, complex box, but again, you have to do what you want to do and what is important to you. If it makes any economical sense to anybody else, who cares? From my side, not much else to do. What I want to show you is from my other hobby, a new acquisition, which I wanted for many years and was always hesitant. But anyway, let's see if I can get that going. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I have a model railway layout, and in HO scale, which is 1:87, and I always wanted a big model to look at, not necessarily to run. I haven't got the tracks and the space to run it, and now I have to show you here the difference between the two scales. The smaller one is the one I normally use, and the bigger one is my new birthday present and Christmas present all in one. And you can see the difference in scale, that the big one is a so-called scale 1, which is a 1:32 scale. It's not exactly the same model, but it doesn't matter. It's just this, to show the difference. Right, let's see. I put the mannequin next to it just to give an idea how big that engine really was. It's a German Express engine. It was the fastest one they ever had. And of course it's very fancy. It has all sorts of things it can do and not do. The details are amazing. It's a 3-cylinder engine, 1-center cylinder, which it has got. Unfortunately, you don't see much of it. It's in a display box. It's made from brass and stainless steel. Holds 7.5 kilos of it. Inclusive firebox imitation. Just a pity that the leading boogie wheels don't turn also. But anyway. That's going into reverse gear. Right. Let me put my old face back on again. Thanks for your patience. Unfortunately, I won't have time to come back for a second round. Have all a nice Sunday afternoon, what's left of it. And I give it to, yeah, looks like the next one is scary. Please take it.
Frank, this has been quite an interesting net today, to be honest. So let me just quickly go down the list and we can comment accordingly. But it's been very interesting. Those tests you've been doing are also very interesting to see. Martin, yeah, I've done exactly the same tests and pulled out the hair. And eventually I got the thermal coupled device. In fact, I might even be able to put a picture on. Let's see if this can work. And that's what I eventually ended up with, thanks to to ZS1 Mike. He had a spare one with the head, and then I managed to find other head probes. It is the thermal coupler device, and that's the only way to measure the DATV correctly, the wide complex signal. With all the other units, you have to put in a perfect sine wave. I've got the very same units that you've been using there, and so has ZS1 Mike. And yeah, we very quickly saw that you have to use a complete, very accurate sine wave into your amp or whatever. And then we found that your initial unit, the one that's, I've forgotten the name now, you know, I've packed it away, I don't even know where it is, but the one with the little silver box and the nice display on your computer, that was remarkably accurate as measured against the TFT power meter that I'm using here, that you can see. So that we used as a calibrating method, and these machines, these TFTs, were calibrated when Leon was still in the industry. So we were very fortunate to have got that while we did. Anyway, it can knock you around a bit. Also, the amplifier, one must be careful. You put out a lot of, you know, if you just use the input current and voltage, you can get the input power, yeah, but it's not to say that's what you're dissipating. And a lot of these amps that have been modified from cellular things are not that efficient up at the frequencies we want to operate on. They're normally about 1.8 gigs. Anyway, I got some amps from Saro, and then we modified. I wrote an article on changing the bias boards and the biasing, and we got them quite efficient. Actually, I'm running at this moment 5 amps, and I'm putting out 20 watts. So it's not that efficient, to be honest, but my idling current is almost 5 amps to get it into a nice class AB mode, which is also handy if you're going to do something like DATV. Yeah, so I think that sorts that out. And then Phil, yes, corrections on my end. Thank you very much for correcting me. Yes, of course. I must be more accurate when I describe things, but you've aptly described it. And I am sure there are many people that would be interested in your video with commentary. Now, what I suggest to give you more time to, to do it, perhaps we do it after the net next week, if that will be okay with you. And then I'll keep the YouTube channel running so that we can always go back to it in the future. At the moment, we have 42 viewers, so I'm sure that if you want to do it today, I'm also more than amenable to keep the net running, the YouTube link running. I'm sure there'll be many people that would like to even go back later on. And perhaps you can offer some commentary, because exactly as what Michael said, that's Echo Alpha 7 KIR, you can see the video, no audio, you still don't know what's going on. I thought that was quite ironic that he had to mention that. So we would appreciate commentary there, Phil. Michael, exceptionally good project you've got there. That PC board, the main board is a work of art. Your cabinet making, your casing, the lettering, the detail, the attention to detail is just really professional. So well done on that. And we'd certainly like more info on the board. I don't know if you're going to perhaps make those boards available, that one could perhaps purchase the board. We'll buy the components separately, and then one could build this. I think it's a jolly good idea to try and get everyone on the same level. Two outstanding audios is, of course, from yourself, Michael, and then Paul's got exceptionally good audio. Frank, your audio was very low. After Paul, we had to crank up the volume. So I hope I didn't blow you guys out of the thing when I came back on. I think my audio is more or less all right. I don't have the LU meters. And you're quite right. It is a subjective measurement. And that's where Leon comes in, ZS1 Mike. I call him my audio analyzer, but he's got the audio analyzing segment between his ears. Because, man, that guy can hear the slightest little thing wrong or with audio. In fact, he does the audio for a local radio station. He's actually set up the transmitter and the audio, and they got beautiful audio, I must say. So that's he does as a hobby, of course. That's Leon down in Worcester. I don't see him on today. I think he's got another job back up at the test range. They're going to fire a rocket, I think, this coming week. So he'll be back with some videos on that too. But Leon's quite a boffin when it comes to that, and he just can hear it. He can hear that slightest murmur. Don't know how he does it, because he doesn't put on headphones or anything. He's just got perfect pitch hearing, I think. And then Paul, yeah, being the electrician. Well, you can get a job in Australia. I believe they're hijacking, they're poaching all South African electricians. So we also have a shortage of qualified electricians, I may say. I know you're not an electrician by trade, but you have a vast amount of electronic knowledge, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to figure out what needs done. And I had to laugh at Michael. I haven't electrocuted myself yet. Yeah, let those not be the famous last words, please, Michael. Let them not be the famous last words. So be careful. Now you're on double caution or warning, isn't it? Frank, yeah, no, that was magnificent, that train. It must have cost a bomb. You say birthday and Christmas gift. Yeah, I wish mine were those expensive, but it is really a work of art, that, isn't it? And the attention to detail, even the coal that's lying on the back there, I mean, it's just phenomenal. That takes a lot of time and eye to detail, but and I know you have a good eye for detail. You build these things yourself, and that is really, really magnificent demonstration you gave today. So thank you for that. I just want to see who else. Hello, Ashley Booth, Ishmael Always, and Brian G6HFS, all watching. And I just want to see, no one else came in. Let me just have a look if there's any comments on our normal let's see, CWIC, okay. Yeah, low audio on ZD6 Golf Echo that we also noticed. And Chris, 2 Echo Oscar India Lima, 2 Echo 0 India Lima Yankee. Nice there, Frank, work on the mechanical art. It is art indeed. Right, with that, I'll swing it around for a quick goodbye. Back to you, Martin. G8KOE ZS6YI on the final lap.
I'm confusing myself because I had the screen which was showing because of you. Anyway, I've got a comment on the train. Absolutely magnificent, without a doubt. Thank you for sharing that there, Frank. Yes, it's really, really good. I enjoyed that. It's what makes this net, I think, superb. You don't quite know what's going to turn up, but anyway. To you there, Paul. Yeah, I was putting CW 99% of the time through from the Pluto, which was using the Sagen software. I've never been able to compare it against obviously a proper analyzer, etc. But it was useful, and I'm not too worried really on power levels, etc. I can judge whether that PA is better than that PA. So I have a couple of them, and that's really what I was more interested in. It was just going back when I had the 2 units, and it's the little tiny one, which I thought was rubbish, I think is not actually that bad. In fact, I think it's better than the other one for the results I was getting. I think it's closer to what I would expect I'm getting from other tests and things I did. But one thing I did find is using the Pluto to feed in and just measure what I was getting out of various preamps, and including a number of these little devices, which I've used quite a lot. I think I measured 3 of them, and these 2 were fine, and the third one got nothing out of it pretty well. It was minus something or other. So it did tell me that that was a duff one. If I'd have used it in line, it would have been attenuated more than anything else. So it did prove very useful. And another thing, I had what I assumed was a 1 watt, and what I had marked up as a 1 watt 2.4. And I do have one that's a 1 watt 2.4, which is I've got a picture of it, but it's slightly bigger heatsink. It's all heatsink and such like. But they also did a 77 one, and what I'd marked up as being a 2.4 gig one was actually a 77 one. So when I tried to test that one, it highlighted the fact that it didn't work. It was all set up for 77s, 400 odd megs. So that worked out well. So I'm quite pleased. The various directional couplers I've got what, 30 dB one, a 20 dB one, etc., etc., etc. And funny enough, my best piece of test equipment is something I've had for many years, which is a meter that I stuck on a ex-surplus piece of equipment that 2 pickup lines in it, which used diodes in it that you used to get in sort of ceramic sort of type of, I can't think what you call them. It's got 2 of those in there, and that I've used, and I know the reference what I would expect to get out of one PA or another PA, and I'm quite happy with that. So all good. What else was I going to comment on? Yeah, audio. What I've done just recently, because I run everything all on the same PC. So OpenTuner, which is run on, which is what I showed when I first started up. Let's see if we can go back to the screen. That's OpenTuner, and the volume level you can actually set to 200%. Well, I set it to 100%, which I think is probably the correct level. And then going back to OBS, which is on the other side, the top, you've got 2 meters you can see moving, hopefully. Let's just make that sort of bigger so it doesn't show. So the top one is desktop audio, which is actually monitoring the receiver, and the bottom one is my microphone audio, because I use a VB audio cable. So the desktop audio one in the settings in here is just the monitor is off, but it nicely displays it, and the other one's monitor and output are the ones that go out to the World Wide World. So those 2 levels give me an idea that at least if I'm actually talking, and now I'm overdoing it, and I find if that's probably going into the red occasionally, it's probably about the right sort of level. But now I'm going to get criticised. I can see that when the next Michael comes on with his meters. But I did like the meters. I can't see me ever building them. But and I do think you're very brave to actually have mains going in on there. And yeah, I haven't got a shock for ages. I think the worst thing about getting a shock is when you don't expect to get one. You think the equipment is not got any mains around. It's bad enough when you do get one, but when you've it wakes you up somewhat. But no, good net, very good net indeed. Power meter. Yeah, I used to like a light bulb on the HF radio, and used to play with it, and even on the medium wave transmitter, should I say. 100-watt light bulb used to flash quite nicely, and you could see the AM modulation and the sort of power that you'd got when you tuned it up. So anyway, that's a long waffle from me. Phil's probably ready to go, so I'll thank everybody for another superb net, and put it over to you there, Phil. I'll put a test card, and it's all yours. From Golf 8 Kilo Oscar Echo.
Yeah, cheers, Martin. Colossus video. I'll do that next week, and I can put a few other photographs with it as well, because it's just a video of the machine. But I should be talking about a Ren's machine, and most people won't even know what the hell I'm talking about. So I could put a couple of photographs together which would help the explanation. So yeah, so if it's okay with you, Gary, I'll do that next week. Frank, wow, what a model. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, that must have been quite a big present. It looked very expensive. Michael, I need to put the record straight. I am no expert in audio. I do have quite a bit of knowledge about SPL, and you think, what the hell is SPL? Sound pressure level. I spent the earlier part of my career in an acoustics company, and we were manufacturing transducers, be it receivers or transmitters, which are to you microphones or speakers. And I was involved with test equipment. So I spent probably about 4 years working with SPL, and that is basically dBs, and I can talk the hind donkey of how you measure, how you correctly measure sound pressure levels, i.e. true sound levels, but I won't bore everybody with that. But also in part of my career I was involved with recording analog onto magnetic tape, and problems of over-modulating the tape and getting distortion. So yeah, but the other thing about PPMs is to do with, and this is quite important if you're in this type of environment, it's with, let me bring up a picture, if I can find it, here we go. What you see there is 2 PAs, which is a part of a 1 megawatt medium wave transmitter. There's 4 PAs make up the megawatt. Each one of PAs is 250 kilowatts. Go back to the webcam. And that amount of power in a broadcasting environment, the last thing you ever want to do is to over-modulate an AM signal. And you don't have people sitting in front of a big transmitter like that monitoring the signal. You just can't do it. And of course, as soon as you see the signal come in, a very large signal like a piece of interference or anything like that, by the time you see it or hear it, it's too late to react, because by then it's actually gone into the transmitter and it's been transmitted with all the harmonics all over the place because it's over-modulated. You could run them at low power, but then that defeats the object of the exercise. If you've got a high power transmitter, you want to run it at high power normally. So what do you have to be able to control the peaks? I happen to have one. There she is. That is a limiting amplifier, and it sits basically in front of the audio going into very large transmitters. This comes from the late 1970s. And what is in there, all of those coils up there, is an analog delay line. And the way that it works is that the analog signal goes into the delay line, but the monitoring equipment in this will actually monitor what has gone into the delay line. And if the signal is above a preset level, the output of the delay line is attenuated, and that's what that meter there, it actually shows, I don't know if you can see it, it's dB reduction. And what you don't want to do is to see that to move a great deal. And that was really my interest in, if you want, PPM, peaks. In an AM transmitter, you don't want over-modulation. But I am no expert in audio. I know, well, I hope I know roughly where the audio level should be for everybody to be comfortable, and that's what I try to aim at. And but I am no expert. Anyhow, that's enough waffle from me. I'm sure Michael's got some comments about his about my limiting amplifier. Well, that's actually designed by the BBC, and yeah, it's I'm very proud of it. You can get them; they're very expensive, but yeah, it's like a piece of sculpture to me, a piece of art. It is so well made. It's and they're handmade as well. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's my I'm very I just stand here and I gloat and just look at it and stroke it because it's so lovely. But there you go. That's me. What a nerd. Anyhow, I need to hand it over to Michael. So let me find my test card. So I shall say cheerio to you all, but I shall be listening. And I shall see you next week, all being well. And I shall do a little talk on Colossus and show a video. So put my test card up and it will be over to you, Michael.
Yeah, I made a couple of notes there. I'm not going to comment on everybody's levels. I'm not going to do that, not today. Maybe when I've got the ballistics working exactly as to spec, I might do, but I don't think people will. There's a great danger of offending people. I'm very much aware of that. I just try to encourage. I don't want to be a policeman. Do you understand? I made a note for Gary. Publish will do. Oh yeah. Gary said, would I possibly make this available? Yes, I will if there's interest. It'll be a while yet because I want to play around with it for quite a bit longer. And if there is an interest, and by that, how would I know that? Well, people might mention it in the future. They might send me an email. They might put it on the chat when I'm there. Things like that. If there is an interest, then I'll make a revision 2 of the printed circuit card. But the way I distribute it, I would make the full design available, or I could just publish the files that you send to JLCB. And I mean, there's 3 circuit cards, but you know, the circuit cards cost a lot less than the postage. So if you order them all at the same time, the postage is only 1 payment. So it's not too expensive. The components, I haven't added it up, but it's, I don't know, it's over 100, I should think, euros. My guess. It's difficult to say because I over-ordered on some things. I'd have to work it out a bit more precisely. But you know, you get what you pay for. And I don't use, I only use stuff from DigiKey. I do not use cheap, you know, resistors or Chinese knockoffs on ICs and things like that. I want things to work as designed. So I use 1% resistors throughout. In some of the resistors in there are 0.1 for a reason. And so on. You know, I don't skimp on the specification because I want it to behave like I designed it, and I consider 1% to be close enough. And yet, yes, Gary, your audio was pretty much smack on according to my meters as they stand at the moment, and so was Martin. Martin, why don't you ever look at the camera? Never. You're always looking over there, or you're always looking over here, but you never have eye contact with the camera. Your sound, Martin, is very radio, i.e. bassy, which is quite nice. I'm not criticising it, I'm just commenting. But because you have the mic so close, if you move away even an inch, the volume will change. It's called the reciprocal law, just like RF, it's the same. So you should be aware of that when the mic is so close. Because you won't get the same amount of bassiness if you move a little bit away. But I'm 15 inches away from the microphone, so I can move in and out like this, and it doesn't really make any difference at all, I think. And then yeah, the steam engine was fantastic, work of art, absolutely incredible, beautiful piece of furniture, ornament. Pity you haven't got the track to actually run it. I'm sure you will eventually. If I had something like that, I wouldn't be able to resist. I mean, I would have to have some working track. With incredible machine, incredible. So I'm sure you'll do that. You've just told the wife that you won't, that's all, be honest. But when she's out one day shopping, you know, that might be different. SPL meters, I've got one actually. I can't show it you now, it's in the storeroom downstairs. But I did actually buy one a few years ago because I made a film and I decided to do it in 5.1 surround sound. And I built an LU meter for that. It was more than an LU meter, it was a complete monitoring device where you could mute or solo any of the 6 channels. That's left, centre, right, back surround left, back surround right, and sub bass, that's 6. So you could solo them, which means just listen to one of the speakers, anyone, or you could mute anyone, which is quite useful when you're doing a mix. But the thing is, when you are doing a mix, you use a combination of meters and your ears. And it's very important to have the monitoring volume correct, predictable. It's your reference. So there is a published reference for that actually, and there's 2. There's one for television studios, for television programs, where the programs are viewed in a domestic environment, people's houses. And there's another, I can't remember the numbers actually, but it's specified in SPL. And the other one is for dubbing mixers that are mixing for a cinema. Now in a cinema, it's a lot quieter in a cinema, so you can hear the quiet bits. And of course, you can be impressive with the sound without annoying the neighbours. Whereas in a domestic environment, you can't do that, it's unacceptable. You know, there's distractions in a house. Even if you think it's quiet, it's not. And if you had it loud, you'd get a knock on the door, please turn it down. So the dynamic range has to be reduced. That doesn't mean compressed, by the way, it just means mixed in that way. Whereas in a cinema environment, you can do it differently. You can use a very wide dynamic range. And the wider the dynamic range you have, the more realistic it is. In other words, an explosion can be really loud and a whisper can be a whisper. And to do that, you need to have the monitoring level at the correct level. And lots of research has been done on that. And they come up with these SPL numbers for monitoring environment. Now, I'm not suggesting we do that for this. That's absolutely not necessary at all, because we are just viewers in a domestic environment. And we can turn the volume up and down, which we had to do quite a lot, even during this net, because some people were extremely quiet, and 1 or 2, I can't remember, I won't name names, but I can't remember the names anyhow, and 1 or 2 were extremely loud. So I had to adjust the volume as everybody else did. And it's exactly that problem that I want to make people aware of, because, you know, it's all right for you transmitting low. You don't know that everybody else has had to turn it up, and vice same for when it's the other way around. So it's a question of being a good neighbour rather than. I mean, I know. I've heard 1 or 2 people, not on this net, but in the past, and I've heard 1 or 2 people say, "I don't care about sound." Well, you can hear it, can't you? Well, yes, we can hear it, but it's distorted to hell. You know, and yet the very same people are tweaking their cameras and, you know, everything else to get the best possible HD picture out humanly possible with the bandwidth we've got. The other thing is that with digital audio, and that's what we're using for transmission, not analog, it's not AM, it's digital, you've got a 95 dB dynamic range available. I think that's correct. 16-bit. I think it's 95 dB, which is tremendous. So there's absolutely no point in banging the meters up into the red. Who needs 95 dB noise ratio? I mean, it's pointless. So you don't want to be anywhere near the red, and you still won't hear any noise. You'd have to drop down to, well, if you drop down to minus 50 full-scale deflection, you'd still have a 40 dB signal-to-noise ratio. So that's why the standard settles around minus 23 dBFS, or I should say LUFS actually. Loudness units reference to full scale. Anyhow, that's it. There's more to sound than people realise. Yes, I worked in broadcasting. Yes, I've been enthusiastic about sound since I was in the pram. I do know quite a bit, both technically and operationally, and I'm still enthusiastic about it. I was a sound supervisor in commercial television in the UK for 20 years. Before that, I was with ABC Television in Manchester from 1962 to 69, I think, when they lost their contract, and I moved over to Yorkshire Television. And after 20 years there, I took voluntary redundancy because I could see the industry was going down the tube, and I set up a post-production company specialising in sound dubbing, and that ran for 8 years until I put it to bed because the industry by then had completely disappeared. And now all we have is, on the whole, cheap programs that made by untrained people. Yes, I'm a grumpy old man, and we did it better in my day, absolutely. But I spent my life arguing with video engineers who had this attitude against sound. And take it from me, sound is much more complicated than video, much more complicated, and more difficult operationally as well. It's a totally different ballpark. But, you know, sound is treated like... Yes. Okay, enough. Where are we going now? Where are we going? Thank you for the net, Gary. Thank you for the net. Nobody's answered my question about the beacon and MPA or MP3. I would like to know this, because some of the receivers that we're using are reporting the wrong number. For example, Minituner, the PC version, the all singing and dancing, everything on one screen application, written by this French guy, that reports MPA. Now you'd think that'd be right, wouldn't you? But RIDE and the RIDE derivatives, such as Portsdown and the one I've built, report MP3. There were problems with the beacon. I believe some work was taken on to get the beacon working again at the ground station level. So maybe they changed their encoding, I don't know. But it seems odd to me that after all this time, we now have receivers reporting different codecs for the audio off the beacon. And I want to know why. And I can't find out. So over to Paul, back to Paul, who had very low level sound. I hope you sorted it out. I see you've got two very expensive mics in front of you, so you obviously care about audio, but obviously not about the level. Sorry. Over to you, Paul. PE1AVP from EA7KIR in Malaga, Spain.
Okay, let's perform an audio test again. Okay, let's perform an audio test again. The level is not that low, Michael. Okay, it doesn't matter. Where is my camera? Okay. I'm there, to my opinion. Yes, I am. Yeah, perfect. First of all, Gary, congratulations on your TFT power meter. Yeah, a good power meter really is great value. That is absolutely true. As stated, I owned one in the past, but don't blow it. Yeah, that is my message. Because they are of great value, but it is also due to the value of real good power meters. Yeah, I already noticed also Leon's wonder ears in the past. My audio station is purely digital, so the microphone signal is immediately digitized, and that is something that he did here. Okay, and you made a statement, Gary, that Leon is firing a rocket. Okay, that's also interesting. Don't know what it is, but perhaps next time he can show something about that. I did enjoy the amazing big scale model steam train. Oh, that's a lot of words. But it's absolutely beautiful. So Frank, if you're still watching, thanks for sharing this. Yeah, and then Martin, you were talking about AM modulation. Well, that's really a long time ago. I also was involved with that shortly at the medium wave transmitting station in the Flevo polder of KPN. But I was not the audio expert, but more the RF technical expert. And the message, don't over-modulate, what Phil said, that is absolutely right. And then Phil, you said I'm not an expert in audio, but I always enjoy the big audio mixer that you're using in the background. So in some way you bring the message, I'm an audio expert. And the analog delay line, that's also what I enjoyed. By the way, looking at DATV and audio, we should not complain that much, because if I listen at the, let's say, quality level of audio in single sideband, also at the narrowband transponder, there a lot could be improved. That means I even did a test in the past, which is not allowed, to increase the bandwidth for single sideband modulation, and it's astonishing, the amount of improvement that you can get only by increasing the bandwidth with 2 kilohertz or so. And then Michael, you made a statement about the distance to the microphone and the importance of that. That is well understood. But listening at you, there was a lot of background noise, and that is what you get if, let's say, the distance to the microphone is a bit too much. At least to my opinion. Your question about what kind of modulation or codec is being used for the beacon, I've got no clue, so I cannot answer. And what I have forgotten, that I did not comment your LU meter yet, but it absolutely looks fabulous. It is really professional how you built the enclosure, so congratulations on that from my side. Then you made a statement about commercials and television. Oh, I hate commercials. Honestly, I hate them. First of all, because it's complete marketing madness that is being presented, but I also hate it due to the fact that, let's say, the loudness of the audio signals that I experience, they are always too high. And I know it. It was also changed by law in the Netherlands that the audio level should be equal, but the way in which you experience it, that is completely different. And it's irritation to me. I can make that statement. You also talked about the dynamic range in the cinema environment. That is something that I really enjoy, a high dynamic range. From the real low levels, the low noise floor especially, that is what I like, and the really high, if it's not distorted, high levels, I also enjoy that a lot. But it's difficult, what you stated, and it might even be that presenting good audio is more difficult than video. I don't know. And then, you also, Michael, made a statement about Chinese components. I do not know whether it's still possible to buy components that are not being produced in China. I think it's not that bad as what you presented. I visited quite a lot of factories in the past in China producing electronic components, and it is incredible what they do. That's how I look at it. It's not a political statement, not at all. It's just, let's say, memorizing what I've seen there. Well, ladies, gentlemen watching the net, thank you for being here. I did enjoy the net. Thanks, Gary, again, for leading the net. Have a good week. Bye-bye to all of you. I propose that the microphone and also the camera go to Gary for his latest words and statements. Okay, I'll present my test card by now and say bye.
That's been a very, very nice net indeed. All quiet on the Western Front. And thanks for the reports. It's been very interesting there, Michael. Echo Alpha 7 KIR. Thank you for your inputs. Well, I did shoot a message to Matthias, DD1 US. He was quite involved. But he will come back to me with the exact codecs that they're using to go up with. So I wanted to mention that, sorry. But I'll shoot you a WhatsApp or so. So once I get the correct information. So your question has not gone totally unanswered. It's just not answered quick enough. Anyway, I was quite surprised to hear that my audio level's not too bad, and that I hope the dynamic range is not too bad either. I'm using a Neumann microphone and a Steinberg, a UR22C digital or analog to digital converter, but it's quite a fancy one. It's a 64-bit. Let me just see. 32-bit, 192 kilohertz. So it's way above what we can actually decipher running what we're running on this narrow band. But it should be okay. Right, with that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you to all watching. There's 59 viewers on, 12 concurrent viewers. sometimes people have a look and then get called away, and then they come back, or they watch later. You'll be surprised to see after about a week or two how many people have actually gone and viewed our little channel. It's quite encouraging. So, and I have got emails and messages from people all over the world, from America and Australia, etc., saying, hey, they watched our YouTube link and found it very interesting. And of course, they, with good respect, always a bit jealous that we are blessed with such a wonderful transponder or satellite. Right. With that, I wish everyone a very happy week. Look forward to the next time. Same time, 1300 UTC next Sunday, but all on frequency. A very good week. 7-3 from ZA6 Yankee India and the whole worldwide DATV net.
Ek hoor my naam was gebruik. Sorry gents, I'm a wee bit late. I had visitors. My sister and her husband visited me today, and just as they left, my local computer doctor arrived to sort out some driver problems on one of my computers, which thankfully is now working perfectly. So, that is it. Gary, hallo daar vir jou. And Michael, I heard the last bit of your thing about audio. I absolutely agree. There's a lot to audio, a heck of a lot. And your ears are far less tolerant of bad audio than your eyes are to poor video. That's why in the TV originally they said no, we use negative modulation because your eyes are not so sensitive to a bit of snow and stuff, and the audio must be FM because your ears, just a little scratch or something is irritating, but a little bit of snow or something, your eyes don't even notice it. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about quality audio. Right, I don't know who's to take. Gary closed the net. Gary, ek gee dit eers vir jou. ZS6 Yankee India, ja, ZS6YI. And the group ZS1 Mike in Worcester.
Okay, Leon. Yes, see. Good that you've come up. Okay. Yeah, now we were skinnering, which is the Afrikaans word for, what are you talking behind your back, eh? What's the other word? Gossiping. There we go. So anyway, we were gossiping about your inbuilt audio analyzer, frequency analyzer. And then I also proudly showed off the wonderful gift you once gave me. If I can just bring it up again. Let me just see. Wacht net so oomlik, ou Leon. Now, we were just talking about the tests you and I did way back. And the Martin, KOE, has conducted the exact same tests with the same frustrating results. The difference between meters, and I laughed at Frank because he's right. If you want to measure something, don't have two different measurement devices. Rather have one or any uneven amount of others. In other words, 2n minus 1 over 2 amount, call it OX, amount of instruments, because the things lie like cheap watches, man. Anyway, yeah, I didn't switch it on today, but I normally keep an eye, and it's a very, very nice piece of equipment. And we were just talking about the correct way to measure the power densities or power levels in the RF, and of course we need a thermal coupler device. And that works the only way. That's real heat. That's real physics, actually. Back to basics, eh? But it's nice to see you. Yeah, we were talking about you going to blow off some or shoot off some rockets again. Is it next week or the week next? When the University of Natal, I know they've asked you to come and do all the telemetry and all sorts of other fancy electronic things that you used to do at the test range. South Africa is a nice test range for those watching. And Leon recently retired, but they keep calling him back. I think he's the only guy with so much knowledge that they have to. And good on them for doing that. Keeps the knowledge in base. So tell us a little bit more about that satellite. I'm still running the YouTube channel, and there are many guys watching, so you can continue. ZS1 Mexico to take it from ZS6 Yankee India.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Gary. ZS6YI and the group ZS1MM. Yeah, okay, thanks, Gary. I'm too quick for the mouse. Firstly, it doesn't want to go into transmit, and then secondly, it doesn't want to stop transmitting. I press it too short or too something, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. On the 4th of June, the preliminary program for now is on the 4th. We are going to do a range check on the FTS system that I've built for them, the flight termination system at the range. And the next day they want to do what they call cold flow tests on their new liquid fueled engine. It's just the engine they have there. And then on the Monday, I think so, well, in any case, in the next week, they want to do a hot firing of the engine, obviously strapped down in its test bench, obviously on the launch pad. It's the only safe place to fire up a thing like that, because it's quite a business with cryogenic oxidizers and fuels and things. But yes, up to now they've been using hybrid motors like the videos I showed last year. And in November, they are going to launch another 2 of those hybrid motor rockets, where I'll be present as well, and doing some videoing for us and for them. So yes, that will be very exciting. But firstly, this June is to check out the flight termination and just the first starting of the liquid fuel motor, and hopefully everything will go well. If it doesn't go well, we don't publish any other video. But it's stuff in development, so anything can happen. You never know. So that's the story from this side. Yeah, okay. I see you with the power meter thing again. Yes. I said it'll work with those other thing is if it's pure carrier. But the moment you're occupying bandwidth, then the whole thing changes. Then it's only a thermal meter that tells the truth. On the big transmitters, as I think I've mentioned it before, we had a water-cooled dummy load for 12 kilowatts, water-cooled. And you measure the flow rate. You set it with a flow meter to a very exact flow rate. And you measure the input temperature and the the exhaust temperature of the water, and there's a little calculation, and that gives you the true RMS power that you are dissipating regardless of the modulation. But I mean that's now for lots of kilowatts. For lower powers we use these the ones that we've got, the Marconis. Okay, I'm not going to hold it. I'll be listening if there's anybody else who wants to come up. Michael, yes, beautiful your audio thingamajig, and it's just so complicated. Yeah, I don't know where my level is in real terms. I'll hook up my ppm meter there and compare it to yours off air, and then I'll set mine to be the same as yours off air, then I know I must be fairly close to the ballpark there. Right, I give it back to Gary. If there's anybody else who wants to take it, be free to do so from ZA.
I gave a bit of a gap. Doesn't look like anyone's on. No, Leon, your audio is perfect. Always is. The only time is when you looked down and you spoke right into the mic, of course, for that split second. It woke us up. Not that we were sleeping, but it brought us to a new level. Anyway, my boet, ek gaan hardloop. I'll close the net and I'll also close the link on YouTube. Thanks for everyone watching. Still, guys, 59 guys watching. 7-3 to all, much appreciated, and we look forward to next weekend. And we do look forward to the ongoing, shall we say, desserts we're going to be enjoying off the rocket launches and the various segments. That's great, and I hope your professor friend at the university will allow you to share the info with us, merely as amateurs, nothing else. Here's Matthias. Okay, Matthias just came back with a message because Phil asked a very interesting question. So Matthias said, okay, I wrote to the experts who built the beacon and I hope they will respond soon. I just want to say thank you so much, Matthias. He's a great guy, that, a DD1 US. Fantastic personality and very, very charismatic chap. He can give excellent speeches and presentations. He used to be head of TDK in Europe, and then they also branched out. Not only tapes now, that's gone basically, but he was head of the division doing automotive equipment, for example, like braking units, that type of thing. A lot of knowledge there. That's Matthias. Okay, with that, 7-3 all, I'm cutting the links. See you a bit later. Leon, thanks for coming up, and it must have been nice seeing your sister there and her husband. Great stuff. ZS1 Mike, maybe to for the final. ZS6 Yankee India.
Okay, Gary, fine. Ja, nee, dankie. En ja, het sal interessant wees om te hoor wat is die actual audio codec wat hy gebruik. Okay, cheers. 73 to all from ZS1 Mike.